Yo, what is up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. It's the GOAT himself, Go to J-Lo, and I'm back at it with another video. And today, first off, I'm gonna just say my bad for saying the long wait. The GOAT is back, but shoot, I'm back on it. New year, new me. Cliche, but let's get right to it. 10 greatest NBA conspiracy theories. Let's get it, y'all.
Theories, a subject I've never really covered on the channel, so I think now's a great time to talk about some of the craziest ones out there. And I'm not saying I completely believe every theory I'm going to be talking about, but I am going to be laying out the evidence that makes each one convincing, along with my own opinions, and then I'm going to leave it up to you guys to decide whether you believe them or not. We're looking at 10 total, but 5 today, and the next 5 in a part 2 coming soon. But let's get into it, and start first with one of the biggest in the NBA draft.
Shoot, I better not hear nothing about no Illuminati up in this joint. Hey.
And this is the subject that has the most conspiracies surrounding it. And we're going through them all today. Now, selecting the order of the draft lottery has turned into this huge process of numbers and variables that choose which teams pick where. But to start, it wasn't always like that. Before 1985, the 2 worst teams flipped a coin to see who would get the #1 pick, which is crazy to think about at this point.
That's crazy.
But 1985 was a turning point, and it was where the first
potential,
started.
what's it called?
The league switched from a coin flip to putting 7 large envelopes inside an actual lottery spinning thing. And that year, everyone wanted Patrick Ewing, who was pretty much guaranteed to be a superstar player. But at the time, the Knicks in particular weren't a great team, but they were also one of the league's biggest markets. So when it turns out that at the start of the lottery, their envelope was bent at the corner, and that was the one that David Stern ended up picking, it created a huge conspiracy that he rigged the whole thing so that one of the biggest teams could have a start at one of the best teams. If the bid wasn't enough though, there's also rumors that the envelope was frozen so he could feel which one was the right envelope. And with a draft lottery system like this, it's
bogus.
Easy for these conspiracies to be started. And whether it was rigged or not, you gotta believe that Ewing ending up in New York was the exact outcome the league wanted.
Now, I heard of this theory before, you know what I'm saying? Nah, that joint is actually true though, for real. I ain't gonna lie.
That was the year LeBron was coming into the NBA. That season, the Nuggets and the Cavs finished with the worst record.
I feel some type of way if I was the other people.
What better scenario would there be for the NBA than James ending up in his hometown team of Cleveland, which desperately needed a superstar player? Well, there wasn't a better possible outcome. And the Cavs did win the lottery and picked LeBron first overall. Then a few years later, the same thing happened with Derrick Rose. The only difference this time was that the Bulls had the 9th worst record in the league that season and had only a 2% chance of winning the lottery, but they did, which is a little suspicious.
Hey,
but then
I'll take it, you know what I'm saying? I'm from Chicago, we'll take that.
And that very next year, they won the lottery with a pick that had a 2.8% chance to win it and drafted Kyrie Irving. They stayed bad, and not only did they win it again in 2013, but they won it for a 3rd time in 3 years in 2014. And the conspiracy here is that the league gifted the Cavs valuable assets to either get them out of their terrible slump or to give them assets to lure LeBron James back eventually, which is what they ended up doing. And if that wasn't suspicious enough that in 2011, 13, and 14, these drafts were considered to be rigged, but in between there 2012 was too, so that's a full 4-year stretch, and it's considered rigged because in 2010, the now New Orleans Pelicans team was sold to the NBA, which led to that vetoed Chris Paul trade. He was eventually traded though, and the smallest market team in the league was now left without
that trade would have been decent,
which wasn't great news.
I ain't saying like I remember that in the moment. I was like a little kid.
For him though, in 2012,
barely knew anything like for real.
The Pelicans won the draft lottery and were able to draft Anthony
folks' head looked like a
no, in
egg,
2012, the Pelicans won.
Bro, look at this dude head, bro.
The draft lottery and were able to draft Anthony Davis. But the conspiracy here is that since the team really wasn't looking compelling for anyone to buy, did the league secretly promise the 1st overall pick to Benson for buying the team, or did he just get lucky? Well, it wouldn't be the first time it happened, because back in the 90s when the Orlando Magic got sold, they won the next 2 draft lotteries. The first one gave them Shaq, and they won the second one with only a 1.7% chance. chance. And it's not crazy at all to assume that luck played a part in some of these draft conspiracies
Yeah, it was
happening.
luck, but
Then you think
some
about
of
the
these
fact
is
that
like,
over the years, all of these things happened is what makes things suspicious. What are the chances that the perfect team got lucky this many times? Plus, with the draft lottery system they have today, it'd be a lot harder to rig the process. But I mean, the whole process is behind closed doors, so would it really? But that's the NBA's first major conspiracy. For the next one, we have to change gears because it has to do with Michael Jordan's gambling addiction.
Jeffrey Jordan.
And at first, from what I knew about this conspirasi, I was sure it was just a myth. But after reading more into it, there
I know
really
a buddy
is
that be doing number
evidence
fadeaways. I ain't gonna cap.
Now, if you're unaware, this theory is that Michael Jordan's first retirement
he said
was a
himself like,
secret
yeah, man.
2-year suspension by
Yeah,
the
man.
league due to
I'm
his
Kobe.
gambling addiction
I looked at his
to
ass
really
like,
save his reputation for when he came back. A similar theory, though, also says that his dad's passing in 1993 was actually a job done to settle some of MJ's gambling debts. And we'll get to that one, but let's first start with the secret suspension. Now, there's no doubt that Jordan truly did have a gambling problem, and that's a fact. And there's a ton of stories and evidence out there to back it up. Like the fact that in 1992 it was discovered that a dealer had in his possession a check from him for $57,000, and Jordan admitted in court that it was payment from gambling losses from a single weekend. So I mean, that shows right there that his gambling wasn't always done in the best scenarios. And to prove his problem even further, a guy named Richard Equinas said that he once won over $1 million from golf from Michael Jordan. Or there's even another story that Mike was spotted in a casino in 1993.
If somebody upped $1 million off me, even if, like, to Jordan, that ain't nothing.
So he clearly had an issue.
Bro, I'm getting my own goons on. Folks, if y'all trying to get y'all goons on me.
But the Bulls won the title that year. Jordan's father
Jordan got goons.
Passed away, and right about at that same time, he went under an investigation by the NBA for his gambling.
The nigga is a goon himself.
Any league rules. Then soon after that, Jordan retired from the NBA, and at one point during his speech, he said, "If David Stern lets me back in the league, I may come back one day." Which is kind of a weird thing to say given the situation. It's not like the greatest player of all time would have to have the commissioner's permission to return, unless there was a sort of suspension.
David Stern tried to ban his ass.
Also dropped the gambling investigation
right
after his retirement.
You want
not
3
saying
rings
there was
straight,
no point of pursuing
you gotta go somewhere.
but saying that he in fact did nothing wrong. Maybe because the job was already done. Plus, it makes it a little more suspicious that it's not like he retired and went away for 2 years. He left and still played a professional sport. But I'm not saying I fully believe in this conspiracy, I'm just laying out all the evidence that makes this a conspiracy. And Jordan's dad did pass away, so it makes sense that he needed a break from everything, on top of the fact that it was always his dad's dream for his son to play professional baseball, so that was Michael Jordan's reasoning for playing baseball. As far as his dad's passing being because of gambling debts though, honestly I don't believe in this one because, I mean, Jordan had the money to pay anyone off, and the job was done by 2 teenagers who had a completely different story than it being about finding Michael Jordan's dad and taking care of him. But I will say there is some fishy information surrounding the situation that makes it an interesting topic if you do believe in that.
That's crazy how Jordan grew so taller than his pops. That's crazy.
But there's 2 major things that don't. Like the fact that there was 21 days that
oh, my son. Hey, that gave me hope for my son. Shoot. Hey.
Before anyone reported James Jordan Sr. missing, and within those 21 days was his 57th birthday that no one saw or spoke to him for. And the other questionable piece of evidence is the fact that James Jordan's body was cremated 11 days after his passing as a John Doe before the body was ever identified.
Dang.
That's a pretty quick process for an unidentified person because, I mean, maybe there was something to hide. Again, I have to say I don't believe this theory is true, but info like this does leave the door open for these conspiracies to be possible. There is one that everyone should believe though, because it's the most convincing conspiracy because we can actually watch it unfold. And you're probably familiar with it. It took place during Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals
freaking
between
free
the Lakers
throws,
and the
bruh.
Kings. The Lakers had just won 2 straight championships, but in 2002 they found themselves down 3-2 against the Kings. Now, most people were convinced that the Kings were the better overall team, but we were headed towards a Kings and Nets NBA Finals in 2002, so
that
it
don't even
looks like
sound
the
right.
refs stepped in here to prevent that from happening. It was the start of the 3rd quarter, the game was close, and the Kings' best defensive center in Vlade Divac had just gotten his 4th foul, and his backup Scott Pollard had 3. So Pollard was in the game and proceeded to get fouled out in 11 total minutes of play for this, and this.
Yeah,
and some of what are the worst
fishy.
calls ever. Forcing Divac to come back into the game, where we saw fouls called on this and this, and Divac eventually got fouled out for going for a loose ball. The Lakers would then go on to shoot 27 free throws in the fourth quarter, scoring the last 16
stuff like
out
that
of 18 points from the line, compared to the Kings' total 9 attempts. We saw Kobe Bryant not get called for running over Mike Bibby, and the Lakers winning the game.
Damn, bro, look. Ali. Look like he snapped 4 snaps.
And eventually the series in Game 7. And I mean, again, this seems like a case of the league doing anything they could to prevent two small market teams, and the Nets and the Kings facing in the NBA Finals. I mean, how many times have we ever seen two small market teams face in the finals? It was
a long time.
Yo, who do you want to be?
I was vibing with the first.
No one's ever asked me that before.
Who?
It's just much better for business to have the Lakers beat the Nets and complete the three-peat, so it makes sense why the league would do this. The other biggest example here that conspires that the NBA is rigged is obviously the 2006 NBA Finals, where the Mavs won games 1 and 2, but from there on out, everything changed. When Dwayne Wade would go on to take 27 free throws over games 3 and 4, attempt 25 in game 5, the same number as the entire Mavs team took that game, which now put the Heat up 3 games to 2.
I never
and
heard
at one
about
point
this.
It was so bad, Mark Cuban ran on the court to scream in the ref's face.
Shoot,
then
I would have
turned around to
too.
David Stern and a group
He a
of
billionaire. Shoot,
fans,
you ain't gonna get no jail time. You
it
straight,
changed
bro.
nothing though, because Wade still took 21 free throws in game 6 to win the series, giving him a total of 97 free throws and an average of 18 attempts a game in their 4 wins, which led Mark Cuban to actually putting in an FBI investigation. The case was eventually dropped, but the FBI found something else out in that process, and that was the case of Tim Donaghy. Now most of you know Tim Donaghy.
So that's how they found out about
dude,
bro.
Who served over a year in prison.
Damn, that's
some people
crazy.
Get the idea that he was banned for fixing games, but he was actually only banished and jailed for manipulating point totals of games to win bets that he placed on them. And what makes this an actual conspiracy is the fact that in early 2019, the NBA came outright and denied that Donaghy ever fixed any games, which would seem like a claim to protect the integrity of the league. Now, Donaghy has fully admitted to manipulating point totals to win bets, but denied ever really
I remember hearing
fixing
no audios.
But he's also refused to take a polygraph test that would ask him that question because he said he knows he would fail it, which could be because he actually fixed them or because betting is so close in line with that. But either way, it's suspicious. And the league did research into his case, and they found that he never made any outlandish
I don't know who they is, but they would come for him.
Changed the outcome of
games. You know what I'm saying?
And if they were trying to hide it, of course that would be the outcome. But then there were other research who found that foul calls favored the team with better betting odds 77% of the time in the 30 competitive games that he reffed in that stretch. And his calls favored the team that he bet on 23 out of the 30 times, which led to him winning 80% of the total bets that he placed.
Damn.
And that still doesn't prove that he fixed any of the games. He was just trying to win bets. But whether he did it on purpose or not, him making foul calls on teams that he bet on so often had to affect a lot of outcomes of a lot of
big as hell, bro.
So he might not have done it intentionally, but I think there's no doubt that some teams definitely benefited from Tim Donaghy's side business, and others probably suffered because of it. I also think it's very clear that the NBA is trying to cover this one up, which is what makes it a conspiracy. And I'm guessing the reason he would have never really owned up to unintentionally fixing them, even though he's been so vocal about the other things he did, is because it'd probably be an entirely separate prison sentence than the one he got for just betting on the games. But comment and let me know what you guys think about this one. This was the first 5 conspiracy theories, and part 2 with the next.
You know what I'm saying? I hope y'all enjoyed that nice little reaction video. Dang, this not the end of the video, you know? I just got like a little message to say to y'all. You know what I'm saying? Just, with anything you do, stay consistent with it. Because you never know where you can end up in like 1 year, just say 1 year. Imagine where you could be if you just grind, put your head down for 1 year. You could be in a way better position than you was than a year prior. And that's just the way how I look at my channel. What if? So I'm not ready to see what if. I'm ready to make it happen. So if y'all with me, let's get it.